Hello and welcome to another episode of Prodigy Search Presents. I am Mark Rush Jr., partner at Prodigy Search. Today it is my sincere pleasure to welcome Tim Wise, Senior Associate Athletic Director at the University of Miami. Tim, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. Well, listen, you bring a long career in big-time collegiate athletics, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but an easy place to jump off. Let's just start with your current role. It's a long, and I probably even left off a few words of that title. So big title, a lot of responsibilities. You've even over the years, as we've come to know each other, gave a great explanation of your role, which goes beyond just facilities and construction and capital projects and events. There's a lot into it. So talk about your current role. Let's start there about your focus for, frankly, the last 8 years and how your roles evolved during that time.
Sure, absolutely. When I originally read your question, Mark, I was going to answer it the pre-COVID-19 role that I had.
Here's
run.
Yeah.
Because right now all I'm dealing with is COVID-19. But prior to that, seriously, prior to that, obviously been here 8 years now as a senior associate AD for facilities and event operations. Primary focus is our facility management infrastructure, which includes maintenance, housekeeping, the daily upkeep, and then our event operations, which is our game operations and, dealing with the table crew, officials, dealing with the conference office. How do we make our games function appropriately within the NCAA and then within the ACC from that perspective? And then the big part of that is, which I know we'll get to later, is capital projects and construction management. And my 8 years here, we have built a numerous number of projects here in the last 8 years. So I'm proud of that accomplishment. So those are some of the key focuses, but then there's also such things as, risk management when it comes to hurricanes or emergency management type functions as well, and particularly with the COVID-19 and everything that's currently happening. That's kind of been my major focus for the last 4 months of kind of working through the COVID-19 and how do you get your facilities, I guess, reopened, re-socialized, and ready back for the student athletes to come. But also, I'm the liaison to the Miami Dolphins and Hard Rock Stadium, which is where we play football there. So great to have that partnership. And then I'm also liaison because we have a little bit of a unique situation here is that we have an on-campus basketball facility, but the university is as third-party management that out to a different company. But I'm the liaison to that company and to the general manager, obviously because our basketball teams not only compete there, but we have a practice facility there. We have our locker rooms there, and then we have all of our coaches' offices and meeting rooms there. And then the other big part of my job, which is probably one of the most important and fun, is I'm a sport administrator. So I have oversight of some of our sports teams. So interacting with our head coaches and interacting with our student athletes and really helping them grow and develop as young people to achieve their goals, whether that's getting a degree or just winning a championship or just, competing at the highest level. So when I'm with them and I see them competing and I see them practicing, I get a lot of joy out of that because what I'm doing is helping them be better and hopefully preparing them for a better life and a better career for themselves. So that's a little bit of a nutshell of the broad picture of everything that I do.
The lengthiest job description ever. There's a lot that you do. And before I get into the capital projects and construction, for those of you that are watching on video when we get to this versus the audio, because we will have this at a podcast as well. But the video, Tim's in the office. Tim's an essential employee down there, and he's been in there, obviously keeping people safe. And that's unique to the U and to the hurricane, usually the hurricane situations, not the pandemic situations that you encounter on a yearly basis. So thank you for being in your office for the last 3 or 4 months. We all appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been interesting being here. As we talked a little bit earlier, here's the thunderstorms out my window right here. But it's been interesting being here for the last 4 months. Honestly, my role is crucial to the success of what we do here at the university. And then obviously from a facilities perspective and helping us manage and guide our staff, coaches, and student athletes through the COVID-19 and what does that mean and how it's impacting, lives and livelihoods and all the things that we have going on here. It's important. Our fans and our parents and our student athletes and our coaches, they want to know that they're returning to a safe and a healthy environment. And we've been working tirelessly with our campus university administration to make sure that our facilities are ready to go. So whether it's signage throughout our facilities, talking about 6 feet distances, wearing your mask, washing your hands, to ensuring that we have the appropriate spacings in meeting rooms and classroom spaces, to making sure that all of our meeting rooms, offices, and weight rooms are not only just clean, but have the extra disinfection, just going that extra mile, that extra step to kind of make sure that those areas are ready to go for when we do start back, I would say, in full blast. That we've partially had some of our student athletes back for the last month or so, beginning with football, and then we slowly brought back in women's soccer, volleyball, and then men's and women's basketball. But the last 4 months has been interesting to kind of just, we were in the middle of baseball season and we were having a baseball game, and I received a call from my director of emergency management, and he's like, "Do you have enough hand sanitizers down there?" And I'm like, "Probably not, Matt, but I'll go get some." So I sent my folks to Target, Walmart, wherever they could go to get hand sanitizers just to make sure we had that for the baseball game. And then the next day, obviously everything happened, and you saw that the NCAA canceled all the championships and spring sports. And so it just kind of went from there of kind of watching it evolve over the last 4 months. So we went from hustle and bustle to just almost complete silence. And so I was coming into their office and no one else was here. And we pretty much locked down our facilities, where only 4 of us had access to be able to get in and out of facilities. So we have a card swipe access system for coaches, staff, and all of our student athletes. And so when my athletic director said, "Let's go to lockdown mode," and we locked it down, and that's where we've been since then. So yeah.
Well, it's amazing. You talk about busy and quiet, so a little more quiet than you're used to over the last few months. But let's go to the busy part, because you mentioned it when you were discussing your role. And I was down on campus for an event about three years ago, give or take 3-4 years ago. And even then there was a lot of construction going on, and we're talking about capital projects as part of your oversight. So I'm sure you've been living and breathing this every day for the last X number of years. So talk about kind of the major oversight of those capital projects, those construction plans, and that huge undertaking just as an overall part of your day to day.
Sure, absolutely. Again, in 8 years here, we've drastically improved our facility infrastructure. When I arrived here, I looked at some of the facilities that we were lacking, and from a recruiting and a competitive comparison, we were just not there. But there was obviously a commitment from our athletic director and from our university to upgrade our facilities as well as build new facilities. So when I came here, the first project I got out of the ground was a new Scwartz Academic Center. And that included a new academic center for all of our student athletes, but it also included a new football locker room because they had been operating out of an old space for the longest here in our facility. So I came out of the gate doing that project, and then we went into renovating some of our Hecht Athletic Center, which is our main athletic center where most of our coaches are housed. We went into renovating some of those spaces, and then actually the front forward-facing part of our Hecht Athletic Center, it was not quite looking the same as the new Scwartz Center. And so obviously most of our facilities are donor namesake. And so when you have the namesake saying, "Hey, my facility doesn't look as nice as that facility," then it becomes, what are you going to do? So we work with our university architect to get the main facade of our athletic center renovated, and it definitely matches and looks great in comparison to the Scwartz Center. So we did that. And then we went into some other renovations, such as we renovated our football field. Then we also renovated our men's and women's basketball area. So we renovated their office spaces, meeting rooms, locker rooms, and lounges as well. And then we got to I guess I would call it the big beast in the room, football. This is Miami. And for all this time, Miami did not have an indoor complex. So Coach Rick, when he was hired as a football coach, one of his commitments was that we needed to figure out how do we get a new indoor complex. So between Coach Rick and Carol Soffer, who's the lead name and donor on the facility, it's called the Carol Soffer Indoor Practice Facility. We started the process of building an indoor practice facility. It's an 85,000 square foot facility. It has about a 70-yard indoor field, and then has another smaller 50-yard side field. And then we connected it to our weight room. So we busted 3 doors into the wall to connect it to the old weight room. And then on the second level, we actually built a brand new football coaches' offices and meeting rooms. So Every position has a meeting room. Every coach has their own office space. And then also we have 3 staff rooms for coaches to be able to meet within that facility as well. So it's just, it's a great building. It changed the game in terms of recruiting and what we were able to do in terms of a competition, not only within the ACC, but nationally as well. And so I moved from there, and then we built about a $500,000 video scoreboard for our tennis program. We had another generous donor that loved our tennis program, so he wanted to make a contribution to the tennis video board. So we did a largest, I think it's the largest, or maybe the largest video scoreboard for tennis in the country. So we did that. And then the last probably 7, 8, 9 months, I have been actually working on our new baseball indoor facility. So it's the Jimmy and Kim Klotz Player Development Center. So it's a 6,800 square foot indoor facility. So it has 3 batting lanes. It has an open area for the kids to gather. And then it has a mud room, and then it also has an AV room. So the indoor is outfitted with cameras along one of the walls. And so immediately after they finish their practices and batting and hitting, they can go into this other little area here to actually review the video.
That's awesome.
Site, which we did not have that capability before. So that's kind of a nutshell of a lot of the things that we've done. We've done some small minor projects here and there. We redid our track, and we replaced the carpeting and all the office furniture and some of that other stuff in some of our facilities. But I've been very busy, which was needed. We needed to improve the infrastructure, and I think we've accomplished that.
But if you've been to the campus or you've seen the facilities, nothing was bad, right? I mean, again, to your point, their infrastructure, I mean, more than a facade, but or a new scoreboard. Again, things that are great to have and certainly are necessary, but beautiful campus, beautiful location, and the facilities. I've only been to maybe at the basketball, I think basketball and football, but I've seen some of them, and they're not bad by any means, but clearly, you know, when you can get the donor and you get the university support and the community and alumni support, you do it. And again, it doesn't hurt in terms of recruiting. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's been a great addition for us to be able to add all the things that we've done. And then you look at where we play football up at Hard Rock Stadium. So Hard Rock Stadium went through, I believe, $550 million renovation. And we definitely benefited for that, you know, for our football team, for recruiting purposes, for our athletic department, because, you know, they put a canopy roof, they renovated suites, they renovated clubs, there's all brand new seats, they renovated the locker room. So we were fortunate enough to be able to benefit from them being able to do that. So when you add that to what we have here, certainly we're not where some of the schools are, but I definitely think we've made a lot of great strides in the 8 years here. So.
Yeah, I think that relationship with the Dolphins and Hard Rock is something that most, again, know about on the peripheral, but to the extent that you shared, you know, how there's mutual benefit and that's a great relationship moving forward is important. And that, again, that happens in certain other cities. I obviously think about Philadelphia with the Eagles sharing space with Temple, and clearly there's some good partnerships, and it seems like what you've described is working out great for both parties as well.
Yeah, the relationship, you know, with the Dolphins and Hard Rock Stadium, you know, again, in 8 years of managing and, you know, developing that relationship with their senior vice president and their director of operations, I think it has been crucial for us to have that relationship to be able to have our games function there. So when there's an issue, I can work with them to address the issue or implement a new rule or new policy that maybe the conference or the NCAA has to implement for football on a particular game day. So just working with their senior vice president and their director of operations, we've been able to, I think, manage through all of that in a great way. I have a lot of respect for what those folks do up there. They do a lot of events just outside of Miami Hurricanes football. So seeing them day in, day out, I mean, literally some days they have our game on a Saturday night, their games on a Sunday, and then they can go do a soccer game or a concert. So it's crucial for myself and my staff and us here to understand what they have going on, so we don't pose a challenge or have difficulty for them to be able to function for their games. Because again, we could have a game on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and then they can have a game on a Sunday at 1 p.m. So it's having that respect for each other to know that, hey, we got to be out of the locker room, and we got to have the equipment truck gone, and we got to be out of the parking lot. We got to have all these things done. So the coordination on our part with them is crucial. I'll tell you, every season, so we have a weekly meeting here on campus with our staff. And then on the Wednesday before the game, all of our staff goes up there and we meet with their staff, not only to go over all of our marketing and promotions materials, but our operations, setups, timelines, but also it gives myself and my staff an opportunity to walk around with their staff to see if there's things that we need to address getting ready for our games on Saturday. And that has proved to be very pivotal for us to be successful. And then we go up on Friday again and meet with the ops director, and we just kind of do like a checklist and walk around. Is the clock working? Is the scoreboard working? Are the TVs working? Are the locker rooms set up? We do all those things on Friday as well. So that relationship is huge for us to be successful in hosting our games there. So yeah.
And we talked a little bit about your prior stops, your career, 8 years, right? So prior to that, and I didn't do enough justice at the beginning, fully introducing your background, but among other stops along the way, Michigan State, the Ohio State University, so I don't anger anybody, the Ohio State University, Wisconsin. So again, a handful, but three. I mean, I just mentioned three big ones right there, including the U. Talk about adjusting and adapting to different markets, right? From East Lansing to, I mean, kind of everywhere, and to Miami, right? I mean, along the way, I know some of those stops were early in your career to present, but different markets, different schools, the makeups of the athletic department certainly different.
Sure.
But how did you figure things out along the way and kind of adjust and adapt to each of those?
Sure. Yeah. For me, in the beginning, I would say it probably was a little bit of a challenge. Obviously, way back then, being young in my career and not knowing everything or thinking that I knew everything and I didn't know everything as I learned and grew. But, a couple of things just from a social lifestyle perspective, when you're living in the Midwest or you're living in the Northeast or you're living out West, as I did at the University of Denver, you have different climates, you have different environments, you have different economic social standards that, give you pause or reason to say, okay, maybe they do it differently here because of X, or they do it here differently because of Y. But then also you look at the weather. I mean, I moved to Miami from Wisconsin. It snowed all the time in Wisconsin and compared to Miami, where it is hot and raining all the time. So you have those different environments that you're in. You're trying to adjust to it in your body and your mind's trying to adjust to that. But then when you look within the university settings, I'm blessed and proud of my background because I feel like that I've probably worked at just about every type of university I could. I've been at a private university as a University of Denver, public universities such as Wisconsin, Ohio State, and UConn. I've been at small universities such as Eastern Michigan University, mid-sized UConn, big-time Wisconsin, private in Miami. So you have all these different backgrounds of different programs that all provide something unique along the way that I've kind of picked up little tidbits from each of those places as I've kind of grown and learned my career as I moved about. But also when you look at budgets, let's be honest, Wisconsin and Ohio State, they're probably two of the largest budgets in the country, whereas a University of Connecticut or University of Denver is not. And so the resources are different, the staffing is different, how you get things done is different compared to a state university versus a private university here. And so you got to be able to maneuver working the system to be able to be successful. Again, at Wisconsin being a state university, I knew that I had to take just about everything through the state of Wisconsin to get it done. Here at Miami, we're private, so we don't have that layer of the state, but we do have our campus infrastructure that we do have that layer that I do have to manage through. So I think being able to navigate all those differences over the course of my 24 years, almost 25 years now in this business, I've just been very blessed to be able to work under some great leaders and to be at some outstanding universities that have provided me opportunities to learn, grow, and develop, and to help shape and mold their facility infrastructure, their event management infrastructure, but also help shape and mold my career and who I am as a person and what I stand for to this day. So for me, it's really about, how do I make an impact? How do I make a difference? How do I provide opportunities for our student athletes and our staff that may not otherwise have that? So I've just been very blessed to be able to be at so many different backgrounds of universities that have all offered something unique and special for me every time.
And I know I left out Denver and UConn, but including them, right? Including again the largest of the large ones, which you talked about, your current role in UConn and Denver. You talked about leader, you used that word leader a second ago, and so you've worked for some, I think, some pretty impressive ADs over the years, and not again clearly including your current AD. What are some things you've learned from? I mean, again, you don't have to go down the list there and rattle them all off. I don't put you on a spot with this one, but what have you learned from some of those ADs that you walk away and like, I can't believe that was a great life lesson, or this was a great career or event or experience lesson I learned from that particular AD?
Yeah, certainly. I really learned that I have to be patient and you
Yeah.
have to be understanding in this business, and that, things evolve and things change over time, and that sometimes decisions are made and you may not always understand why that decision is made, or you may not always be at the table for that decision, but know that, if you truly support the department and you support the decisions, then that you execute it and that you get it done to its fullest. But also being able to be around some ADs who just kind of helped me grow, just as a person, and that have truly cared about their staff, their coaches, and our student athletes. More important, the passion that they give towards, our student athletes and the coaches. Those are some of the things that have resonated with me with some of our athletic directors in terms of, their commitment to really carrying through and making sure that student athletes graduate and they're successful and they have that student development, or they have that other experience on the resume to be able to land a job or to apply for grad school. So I think each AD has brought something differently. I will say that over the course of my 25 years, I will say the athletic director's job is a tough one. I know they all love what they do, but no job is easy because I think they're all unique and different. And particularly in the time of now when we're dealing with COVID-19 and you look at, universities that are either dropping sports programs or reducing sports programs and scholarships or eliminating staff or trying to cut budgets. But these are difficult times that we're living in. And to be an athletic director during this time is very challenging and trying, but I know everybody's working their best to ensure that, everybody's safe and everybody's healthy and that everybody returns to an environment that's going to be welcoming and encouraging for them to be successful from that perspective. But I picked up a little bit of something from each one of those ADs, and I'm blessed and proud, with some of the ADs that I've had the opportunity to work with over the course of my career, and they're all have been outstanding leaders that have helped me help shape and mold who I am today.
Tim, you mentioned the word opportunity a minute or two ago, so I'm going to go down this path, a little bit of a different path, but I think among other areas where you're involved in contributions you have and give to college athletics and NCAA beyond just the University of Miami. One of the things that we haven't talked a lot about over the years, but clearly I've noticed it in doing my homework and research on you. You're a member of the Minority Opportunities Athletic Association, and so I guess I have two questions there. The goals and objectives of MOAA, and what can our, truthfully, let's have an honest conversation. What can our industry, college, pro, you name it, what can our industry do better to provide more opportunities for minorities in sports? And if you want to focus on college athletics, that's okay too. But I know it's a loaded question. Maybe start off by telling us a little bit about MOAA first.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm excited to be a part of MOAA, as we affectionately call it. So not only am I a member, but I'm a part of the board of directors. And not only am I a part of the board of directors, I'm a part of the executive committee, which is the leadership officers of the association. So really, our purpose is to really focus on how do we exchange ideals, how do we increase participation, how we an advocacy group for minorities, whether that's student athletes, staff, coaches, females, males. How are we advocating and providing opportunities to provide programming and resources for all these entities to be successful as they progress throughout their career? So we're an organization that's here to represent anybody that wants to be a part of us. If you have an inclination to be involved with diversity and inclusion, you should be a part of MOAA, because that's what we're about. We're about enhancing opportunities, providing that access. I use the word access and opportunities. So, having that access and opportunities to be able to have a seat at the table, to be at the forefront, and to be able to have a voice within this industry. And, again, after being here 24, 25 years, you can see the lack of diversity not only in college athletics, but in pro sports, all the sports in general. So I think what we can take out of that is that we have to figure out how can we be an advocate for making diverse and inclusive hires during the hiring process. So sometimes that means we have to be intentional in our process to really know what are we looking for in our staff, what is the makeup of our current staff, how do we increase that, how do we make it better? But not only that, but when they're here as a part of the staff, how do you make them feel inclusive and part of the program? Is that, you know, training, is that workshop, is that professional development, is that, you know, culture and diversity training? We're going through that right now here at the University of Miami, as I can imagine a myriad number of universities are going through that. So really, I think, and you look at the landscape of sports in general, I think overall there's been a poor job done in terms of hiring minorities and qualified candidates to be in those roles and those positions. So I think you have to be intentional about making that hire. You know, it's interesting that I was on a call the other day, and you know, they were talking about qualifications and skill sets and this and that and the other, and we were like, well, we're all here. You know, don't tell us you can't find us. We're here, so it means you may have to go a little bit of an extra step to get us, but MOAA is one of those organizations that's here to help facilitate, to say, if you're an athletic director or if you're a GM or owner of a franchise and you're looking for qualified candidates to hire for your organization, we can help you with that, and we can support you in that initiative to hopefully make your program more diverse. But yeah, I think we all have to do better. We have to ask the right questions. We have to be inclusive. We have to make it a welcoming and a friendly environment. And that can mean from, you know, gender, race, ethnicity, all of that. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the race when we look at diversity, but we don't necessarily look at the other factors when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Again, you know, someone's socioeconomic status, and they may not be able to afford something, you know, someone's lifestyle choices and being ostracized because they're this way or that way. Someone who comes from a mixed race family and who may be struggling to figure out where is their place. So I believe college environments should be a place that welcomes all of that, that helps you breed success, but also helps you provide access and opportunities to those that may not have that. And so part of my focus is always to figure out, how can I help someone else get to where they want to get in their career and their life? And being a part of this organization is one of the ways that I do that.
And I think you said something, I think it's valid. I mean, the I part of D&I is critical, right? It's not just about diversity, so that the look and the makeup is one thing, but the environment, the atmosphere, the culture, the meetings, you know, the emails, you know, that they are inclusive of new, fresh ideas and approaches from all voices. So it can't just be the D part of D&I. It needs to be both of those letters, you know, need to be included. But I like your background for this very reason too, though, Tim. And this is, like you said, 20, 25 years, and you've had to earn it. You've been in some, you know, going back early in your career, some unique roles that got you to where you are today. But what I like about your background is that I hope others will look at it and say, I don't need to come up through college or pro sports in ticket sales only, or truthfully. And I've had conversations with friends about this in the industry too. Is you also don't want to just be cast for the D&I jobs, like the chief diversity and inclusion officer, right? Like, no, I can run facilities, I can run event operations, I can do HR, right? I mean, the job can be whatever. It doesn't need to be just in this silo for you or for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. For me, I was not a student athlete when I was in college. Now, I was involved in high school in terms of, you know, I was a manager on the basketball team. I kept the score. I did all this fun stuff, behind the scenes stuff. And honestly, I went to school and had my undergrad degree in business management from the University of South Carolina. And I promise you, I thought I was going to work in the business sector, work for a bank and do all this other great stuff. But then as I was at South Carolina, and I worked for a lot of great administrators at South Carolina, but one name comes to mind, Veronica Conway. She worked at South Carolina in our sports information office. I had kind of volunteered in, you know, tickets, sports information, and then, you know, got involved in facilities and operations. And that was because of her pushing me to kind of do that type of work. And I was fascinated by that. And I said, oh my God, this could be a wonderful career.
Yeah.
So I went and got my master's at the University of Tennessee in sports management, and I worked in the women's athletics department. And for those that don't know, back in the day, many college and universities had separate men's and women's athletics department, and Tennessee was one of the last standouts to have that separation. But I was blessed to work in women's athletics and enjoyed my experience there in Rocky Top. And then, as you alluded to, I went to Michigan State and Ohio State and several other places. But I guess the point is, again, I don't know that you have to have that traditional background to be an athletic director. When you look at this day and age, some of the athletic directors that are either lawyers or have been CEOs of companies and did some other things in their life before they became athletic directors. I think all of it bodes well to the success of being an athletic director, because you bring a wide variety of experiences and background into that role. And the thing about being an athletic director, you have to manage more than just the athlete. You have to manage, the budget, fundraising, compliance, communications, tickets. You have to manage all those different variables. So if someone has a well-versed background, or if they came up through a non-traditional route, I think that certainly bodes well for being successful to being an athletic director. So I think we have to take a step back from that mindset of you just have to be an athlete to be an AD. But that's certainly important, because obviously being an athlete, you're down in the trenches and you can see those dynamics, but also you have to be able to see those other variables that make an athletic director successful.
Well, and the beauty of your background too, right? And again, was you kind of beat me to the punch on that doesn't also need to be your path either, right? You personally, Tim, your next step, I think it's an option, yeah, because I think ADs could use an infusion of a background and a skill set like yours, even if they didn't come up through being a coach, or like you said, a former athlete or a lawyer, I guess your other example there. The beauty of your background, though, it could translate to other, a brand new facility that's opening up, a facility that, or, a new MLS team, right? I mean, your background could translate aside from being an AD, although that AD would not be a bad title on you, I don't think.
No, I think being an athletic director would be a great opportunity, but at the same time, I'm certainly open-minded at this point in my career and in my life, for that matter. I think I'm at the point where I probably can be a little bit more picky, a little bit more choosy, but at the same time, I'm going to be open-minded to the varying different opportunities that may present themselves to me. I think the big thing for me, Mark, is really being at a place that I can make an impact and I can make a difference. I really want to be at a place that the work that I do influences and helps others to achieve what they need to achieve in their career, in their life. So it's important for me to be in that type of space that breeds that type of, philosophy or thought process in terms of how do you make that impact? How do you make that difference? How do you get things done for the benefit of everyone? And for me, this is not just about me. It's about the greater good of what we do. So as I continue to progress in my career, I'm certainly going to be open-minded to looking at those opportunities, because obviously you want to be at a place where you can utilize your talents and your skill sets to the fullest, and you want to be at a place that embraces that mindset. And I always tell people, you're the expert in your field, I'm the expert in my field, and I don't go telling you how to do your job. So it becomes, how do you work in an environment where you can all be like, okay, I'm at the table and we can get it done. And I learned something from a great mentor and friend of mine, Vaughn Williams. I used to work for him. He's at Boston College now, but I worked for him when he was at UConn. And he said, Tim, at the end of the day, I don't care who gets the credit. Let's just get the job done, and let's do what we need to do for our student athletes, obviously. But you can apply that still to the pro setting, or to a convention center, or to any type of facility or any type of position that you go to. So it's not about that individual credit, but it's about how does this team come together for the overall success and benefit of the organization.
Tim, what about elephant in the room? What about the fall? I mean, to the extent, and I'll beg for forgiveness later in asking the question, but I know lots still up in the air for all fall sports and perhaps even winter, but let's just focus on the immediate. What are your thoughts? And again, if you need to be guarded in your answer, I respect that, but what are your thoughts on fall and what might be ahead for college athletics and perhaps Miami in particular?
Sure. Yeah, it's the elephant in the room, and I think I get asked that daily not only from my internal staff, but from family and friends, and they want to know because I'm in sports, and they're like,
Yeah,
when are
you better have an
play
answer
again?
for them. Your family wants to get answers. Yeah.
They do. Everybody wants to know, and I always say, hey, if I had the crystal ball, I'd be rich right now. So I don't. But I will say this: I think at the end of the day, it's really about what's in the best interest of not only our student athletes, but also our fans and our community in general. Obviously, COVID-19 is a very serious issue and a pandemic that we need to deal with as a country. And I think that's how we need to attack it. I think, unfortunately, you have individual entities that are all trying to attack it, and I don't know if that's going to be enough. And so I think it's going to take that national, global reach to say, okay, these are the things that we need to do to ensure that our facilities are safe and ready, that our fans are safe and ready, and that our athletes are safe and ready to be able to compete, watch, be a part of this process. And so until we can get a control of the pandemic, I honestly can't say where we're going to be in the fall, but I do know that those that are in the chair making those decisions, I honestly do believe they have our best interests in mind, and that they will make the best interests based on our safety, our health, and our well-being to not put us in harm's way. So I think if we can work through all of that, we can work through the other challenges.
Second elephant in the room. You've been to all these places, these big time colleges, your own universities. What's your favorite mascot?
Home is where the heart is, Mark. Home is where the heart is. And I'm a Gamecock through and through. And
All right, I wanted to make sure you gave that answer because you'd have a lot of pissed off people if you didn't give that answer. I was worried about what you were going to say about Ohio State and that mascot, or you have some options.
I'm a Gamecock, so I tell people all the time, even here, and they know it here, they look at me funny sometimes because they'll see me in my Gamecock, or they'll see me talking about my South Carolina Gamecocks. But I always tell people this. I said, hey, I always root for my two alma maters, South Carolina, Tennessee, and the university that's paying my check.
Yeah, whatever paycheck, whatever logo's on that paycheck is getting my vote.
Yeah. There you have it. So those are my three. But I'm a Gamecock through and through. I love South Carolina. I miss home. That's where my family still is. So I'm a Gamecock through and through. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I had to hit you with that. That was the hardest hitting question towards the end there. But hey, Tim, listen, thank you so much for your time today. An absolute pleasure. Obviously reconnecting with you. We've spoken a lot over the years. Continued success this summer and heading into the fall, especially as you wrap up some of those projects. And good luck as we look towards the future, the next 3, 6, 9 months. I hope everything goes well. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. This has been great. And you stay safe and you stay healthy as well.
Thanks, sir.